so important, ladies and gentlemen, that you know you can have peace of mind. I'm going to give you the inside story while you're all focused on the American election. What about war in the Middle East? Aren't you paying attention? I don't believe there's going to be a war in the Middle East. I'm going to tell you why. I've got some inside information I'll be sharing with you about what's really going on with Hezbollah, what's going on with Iran, what's going on with Israel. And the reason I can tell you that is because I'm going to be going there to speak in Jerusalem, and I've had to have some intelligence report that I'm going to share with you, the audience, as to what's really happening. By the way, you want to really know what's nutty? Evangelicals for Harris. If this isn't hilarious, I mean, it's like Satanists for pro-life. I don't know. It's a weird thing when you got evangelicals going for Harris. We're going to cover that, and who's promoting you're going to be shocked. But the big story right now is Comrade Kamala is coming out with her economic policy, and I really do think I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not an oncoming train. It's her policies are going to be her ultimate problem. Donald Trump needs to get away with the personal attacking. It doesn't work. Just turns women up. This is the thing that you don't want to do, is just attack the woman, Kamala Harris, because the average low-information voter just thinks you're beating up on a woman. Go after the communist policies of the Biden, Harris, Bernie, Obama era and what it's going to do to America. Now, by the way, you told me, Mercedes, a moment ago, and it's so important that people catch this, because the economic warfare is where you're going to feel it the worst if we don't make a course adjustment. Yeah. What's the story with Chick-fil-A? Just give me the numbers on Chick-fil-A real quick.
You want the Chick-fil-A numbers right now?
All right, here it is. 2019, ladies and gentlemen, what was a Chick-fil-A sandwich? I'm going to tell you now, $3. 2024, what's a Chick-fil-A sandwich? $6. $3 to $6.
Well, that's an 8-piece nuggets. The deluxe chicken sandwich went from $3.65 to $6.55, so that's almost 80%. And then we'll do the medium waffle fry, because who doesn't like the waffle fries? That was $1.65 at the end of 2019. These are these prices. Mid 2024, like right around now, $2.99. It's gone up, an 81% increase. And this is across the board. This is McDonald's,
folks,
too.
Listen,
McChicken, $129 to $3.89.
This is serious business, man. We got to take a breath and stop and look at what's happening. We know the BRICS nations. What did you tell me about what's happening with gold right now?
That was what I was ready to talk about.
But you mentioned it to me a minute ago. What was it?
No, I know. So when you say BRICS nations, it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa.
And 25 other, including Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Saudis.
So they're looking to move away from the petrodollar, right? They're looking to do business
away from the dollar.
Away from the dollar. And so they're trying to create their own financial system, and it's being speculated that it's going to be gold backed. And so they're exploring remonetization of gold. And so a lot of these financial experts that I follow are saying, this may lead to the Fed and Western nations looking to incorporate gold into their basket of currencies to remonetize it. So I know we moved away from it, 50, 60 years ago, but they're talking about this could pressure the dollar to be put back on the gold.
I'm going to get right into today's show, but the reason why I wanted to talk about this first is because years ago I had this concern that the United States is a lot like Israel in that if we value our wealth and our freedom, but do not value God, then it's like the Jews who wanted quail. You know what God did? He said, you love quail so much, but you don't love me. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you quail till it comes out of your nostrils. The problem is we are now so in debt, we're printing $1 trillion every 100 days to pay off our own debt. What country in the world can run a printing press to pay off their own debt? Only the United States. And how much longer can the United States be underwritten by God's grace? If we can't bring our own fiscal house in order, the globe is going to punish us. The quail, the dollar bills, will come flying back into our nostrils, while these other 30 or 40 countries representing half of the global economy disconnect and decouple from the United States and the dollar, and we find ourselves alone. Is this possible? Go to lancewallnau.com/gold. lancewallnau.com/gold. Read a 20-page report. Get informed. Or just put the word gold in the commentary section right there in Facebook or in Instagram. And I'm going to send you the 20-page report, because I believe you can take action right now to do what these other nations are doing and back up from the dumpster fire with the dollar and position yourself with the silver, with the gold, and with something that can handle the coming storm. And trust me, The people that have done that have peace of mind because gold for 2,000 years has been a store of value. LanceWallnau.com/gold or put gold in the comments section. Now let's get into today's broadcast. You don't want to miss a moment of what's actually going to be breaking out in the Middle East next. Welcome back. I know you've been waiting for the next point. And that's, what's the likelihood of war breaking out in the Middle East? Iran is deathly afraid that Israel is going to shut it down with one fell swoop into the refineries. What most people do not talk about, that they need to talk about, is the fact that Iran is vulnerable. They only have one economic engine, and that's their exporting of oil. And every time Trump warned them, he said, you touch one U.S. serviceman, you retaliate. I got 52 jets right here on these aircraft carriers, and each one of them represents a hostage. You want to play with me? I'll play with you. I'm going to take out your economic infrastructure. And they know he could do it. That's why they hated Trump, because Trump actually knew how to use the power he had. So they also know that Israel could do it. What did Israel tell them? Have you guys seen a recreation yet of this, the leader of Hezbollah, who was killed? They don't know if it was a drone, a bomb, or a long-range missile. And so there's three scenarios. They're still trying to figure out, how did Mossad, which is like Mission Impossible grade Secret Service people, how did they get into Tehran, into Iran? And literally, they have a special government fortress, 4 stories high, with a 3rd floor is the favorite place for the visiting dignitary from Hezbollah to stay. They knew the room. They knew when he was there. And they sent a missile, a drone, or something that they were able to activate from within visual contact with the building and take the guy out. This was an insult of a very high order, because this wasn't like some assassination attempt that happened out there outside the country. It was right in their capital, right at their fortified Hyatt Regency. But what was Israel saying? We have the ability to, with pinpoint precision, pick our targets. If you really do push us, then we will take out your economic infrastructure. We'll take out your refinery. Boom. I don't think Iran knows how to respond to this. I think they want to save face. They would love an assassination of Netanyahu. They would love to do something symbolic. They'd love to hit Trump. But they can't go for an all-out, in-your-face assault. They can't, and they certainly don't have the ability to do a repetition of the 300 drones and missiles. Now, I could be wrong, but I'd say that I'm banking on this so much so that I'm going to go to the Middle East, and I'm going to go speak in the Middle East, because I'm that confident that there's not going to be war. There may be terrorism events. Don't get me wrong, terror events. That's the MO. But in terms of all-out war, not while they have a chance of a Democrat in the White House. It's weird, isn't it? Democrats are the ones that create the wars. I mean, take Trump out, and what do you got? You got our screw up in Afghanistan. You got Russia going at Ukraine. We got Hezbollah and Hamas going against Israel. And it's Democrats. But for some reason, they don't fear Democrats. They don't fear Biden. They don't fear Harris. Trump gives them nightmares. Speaking of nightmares, here's one. Reverend Billy Graham's granddaughter joins Evangelicals For Harris. If there isn't one organization that, to me, is the epitome of irony, it's Evangelicals For Harris. That's like diabetics for Krispy Kreme. That's like Jews for Al-Qaeda. That's the KKK for BLM, Antifa for Trump. What more insanity can you have than voting Kamala for me is so much greater than policies? Spoken like a woke, well, shall we say, mindless youth. The granddaughter of the late Reverend Billy Graham endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris during an Evangelicals For Harris Zoom call Wednesday and suggested that Christians who support former President Donald Trump are causing people to turn away from Christianity. Well, I'm sure Kamala Harris is going to make them turn towards Jesus. Matter of fact, I'm pretty positive a lot of people are going to come to Jesus. She's president. That's the sad part. All right, so what's the story here? Well, here's the other side of this. I'm going to just
we
point
got a
this out.
2-minute clip if you want to hear some of the clip.
Oh, it's going to be painful. Do you guys want to hear it? You know what Bannon does? I miss Steve so much. We need him right now, people. What Bannon would do is he would make us listen to these people. He would start his show off with a cold open, and he's like, force you to have. I don't want to hear it. You are gonna hear it. You're gonna hear it. All right. In honor of Steve Bannon, I'm gonna force you to listen to this. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jerusha Duford, and I'm grateful to have an opportunity to join you tonight. Thank you to everyone who joined this call to discuss a pivotal point in our country's future. You know, I was thinking this morning that if you told me 10 years ago that I would be taking an active role in politics, I'd have laughed. But then I had to stop and realize this is so much more than politics. My role began in 2016 when a man bragged about assaulting women. Various leaders of my faith then propped up this man as a poster boy for godly manhood and leadership. This broke my heart as I have watched, quite frankly, for the last 8 years, people who were curious about Jesus and his teachings done a 180 and walked in the other direction from my faith. Isaiah talks about an oak whose leaves wither and a garden going without water. These things happen slowly, over time. First, people professing the Lord made excuses for the lack of kindness. Then for the name-calling. Soon it was making excuses for assault. Then it became making excuses for January 6th and now making excuses for convicted assault and 34 felonies. The oak leaves don't wither overnight, and I'm terrified to think of how far this turning our head the other way and making excuses will take our country, but more importantly, our witness to the world. One of my grandfather's favorite verses was Micah 6:8. What an incredible reminder of what the Lord requires of us: to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. I've always stated that my president doesn't have to be a Christian, but I am and will be watching for my faith leaders support actions that reflect mercy, justice, and humility, and for my faith leaders to rebuke actions that are the antithesis of that. Voting Kamala for me is so much greater than policies. It's a vote against another 4 years of faith leaders justifying the actions of a man who destroys the message Jesus came to spread, and that is why I get involved in politics. I'm a therapist, and I try to leave my clients with what I call committed action steps.
A therapist?
And the following are the ones I'd love for you to take with me. First, pray. Pray for the faith leaders in our country to take a stand for justice, mercy, and humility. Second, pledge. Take the Evangelicals For Harris pledge on our website, evangelicalsforharris.com. And lastly, service. Go perform actions of service in your neighborhood or community, and then come back and share your story with the Evangelicals For Harris campaign. Thanks for listening to me. Let's do this.
Acts of service. Drive your neighbor to the abortion clinic. Take your child over to the trans club where they can determine whether or not they're really a boy or a girl. Why don't you become a Satanist? Have a drag queen. Do drag queen hour at the local library. What annoys me the most about people like this, Billy Graham's granddaughter, she's going to dare to come out and become the instrument of the left for political purposes. She says, well, I would certainly vote for, well, the Antichrist if it's a vote against bad faith leaders. In other words, she's saying she's going to vote for someone as a vote against faith leaders she disagrees with. I want to hear what Dad has to say, Mercedes, but I just want to point something out. Billy Graham, your grandfather, who you quoted, you knucklehead, voted for Trump. So if you're going to stand in the shadow of your exalted grandfather and borrow the legacy of his righteous influence and his brand in America, then no. Billy Graham and Franklin Graham both stand with Donald Trump because they aren't manipulated by the failures or the sins of the past any more than God forsook David, who did things worse than Trump, but had the capacity to recognize they were wrong and repent, change his thinking. So why are you prosecuting a man for something done 20 years ago when he's virtually laying down his life and 700 years of imprisonment to satisfy your crippled sense of vulnerable morality? Mercedes.
That was really good, Lance. That's some of what I was going to say too. Is like this is almost 20 years ago that she's holding these sins against.
She was 2 years old. She was an embryo at the time.
Oh yeah.
Thank God she wasn't an aborted embryo. Democrat didn't.
When the left talks about like dangerous Christian nationalism, I think this is what that means, because she's getting involved in politics, and this is clearly dangerous when these are the policies. And okay, so a couple other things. What's with the Sith Lord lighting? Like, did you see the lighting game going on? It was like light on this side and then like dark on this side. It was very, very strange. But this is what the left wants to do. This is what religious people want you to do, is get stuck on the politicians at the top of the heap. When we're really talking about, like Lance is pointing out so eloquently, we're talking about biblical worldview issues. We're talking about fundamental biblical principles. And from there, we build out policy and platforms. And so when you look at a Democrat platform, like Lance illustrated, versus a Republican platform, you see a stark difference between one that upholds what the Word of God says and one that stands opposed to it. But she wants you to look at sins from a man's past from 20 years ago and falsely hold that against him.
It's so ignorant that you would allow somebody to enact policies that are actively anti-Christian because you don't like the personality of the person who is standing for biblical principles. Judge not according to appearances, but judge righteous judgment. By the way, Evangelicals for Harris, formerly Evangelicals for Biden, formerly Diabetics for Krispy Kreme. Actually, on Wednesday, they had a Zoom conference hosted by the reparations activist, Ikemini Uwan, who's argued that whiteness is wicked and the police as an institution need to be destroyed and rebuilt. Policing was founded, we all know, on the re-enslavement of black people. So your Evangelicals for Harris is promoting the reparations for whiteness, paying back the blacks because whiteness is wicked. I don't know if you've noticed your skin tone, young lady, but you're self-destructive in your own policies and your own influence. And thank God your grandfather, and I guess, I don't know, is Franklin her father or her uncle?
I'd have to look it up.
Anyway. I got to land the plane on 22 seconds over, but we'll be right back. We're entering a period of time that has increased hostility against people of faith. It's a time when Christians are going to be tested on a moral, physical, psychological, and even a financial basis. I'm here to remind you that God is the one who has blessed you thus far, and He will take care of you in the future. You have a divine responsibility, however, to see trouble and prepare yourself. For example, with record inflation eating away at the value of the U.S. dollar, the savings in your retirement account is in danger of slipping away. I recommend diversifying your 401k or IRA out of paper assets and into physical gold. And the best way to do that is with a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. Now that includes no penalties, there's no taxes when you transfer current retirement funds into Birch Gold. To see how it works, I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get your free info kit, and you'll be glad that you did. I know you've been waiting for me. You've been waiting for this last segment. And I'm so glad that you're here. Because we're going to move out of Evangelicals for Harris. We're going to deliver ourselves from Antifa for Trump and Jews for Al-Qaeda. We're going to now go to a more edifying subject. The future of communism in the United States, coming from Kamala Harris, Comrade Kamala. There'll be plenty of opportunities to figure out an epitaph for her in the days ahead. But I want to play video cut 10 as Kamala Harris begins to explain her vast economic experience creating jobs and building profitable businesses, which she's never done. However, her dad was a Marxist professor and told her, if you do it the way the Soviets do, it'll work. Listen to Price Control 101 from Trump.
Kamala went full communist. You heard that? She went full communist. She wants to destroy our country. After causing catastrophic inflation, Comrade Kamala announced that she wants to institute socialist price controls. You saw that. Never worked before, never ever worked. This is the Maduro plan, Venezuela. Maduro plan of like the old Soviet Union. They tried it. How did the Soviet Union work out? It became Russia, a smaller version. It was a smaller version. It will cause rationing, hunger, and skyrocketing prices, just like their Inflation Reduction Act caused, one of the great scams of all time. They got it approved with a beautiful name, Inflation Reduction, because inflation under their system has been so bad. It's gone up much more than 50%. You know, they say 30, 40, 50, much more. People are being devastated. They're being devastated.
You know what I hope Trump actually does? He doesn't do it enough. Is there's a point where you actually have to give statistics and not just break it down in simple Queens type language, at the barbecue. You got to say it's bad, it's devastating. Specifics are really going to be important to people, that they can hear the facts. What is the percentage of increase on the loaf of bread, on the glass of milk, on a gallon of gas, et cetera, on the cost of a home? The data is important. Do you realize, for instance, nobody's talking about the border. I don't know what happened. If Bannon was here, see, they put Bannon in prison because the last time Trump ran in 2016, Steve Bannon, during the final 100 days, closed the gap and put him over by 120,000 votes in 4 swing states. They locked Bannon up to keep that strategic influence away from Trump. Here's what he'd be saying now. Listen, forget the cute epithets on who she is. Start talking about her policies specifically, challenging her to own her clarity. And don't forget the border, Mr. President. Nobody's talking about the border. Let me give you some data today, right now, that Trump needs. Listen to me, Mr. President Trump. There are more single male standing army men that have come through the border that are able to go to war against the United States. More combat ready, eligible, physically fit, independent men from foreign countries in the United States than we have men in our military force right now in the United States. We have more foreigners that are of military capacity in our borders than we have standing soldiers ready to be activated in the U.S. Army. Think about that. We have more people that have died from fentanyl in the last 5 years than died from Afghanistan, Iraq, the Middle East wars, and Vietnam combined. Fentanyl. And by the way, fentanyl is in here as a drug cartel policy from the cartels. It's here from China, manufacturing it. It's their version of the opium attack that they had to endure by the West and by England during their previous period of history. Here's the reality about price controls. When you enact Kamala's crazy communist idea that these people are price gouging. Notice how the left always has to find a criminal. Who's the criminal? Somebody's making a profit. Whoever's making a profit's the criminal. That's what socialism says. Kill the business people. They're the ones that are profiting off of this. Go into that's where the smash and grab comes in. Who's training these kids to do that? Kamala Harris's Marxist teachers. It's all unjust. They've gamed the system. You're behind because they stole your opportunity. Go smash, go grab, go take what's yours. They're just filthy, commercial interests trying to prosper on the back of the poor like they've always done. See, that's how you destroy a country. So here's the 4 things that happen when you follow Kamala Harris's new economic policy of, don't worry about it. I'm going to freeze the house of those. I'm going to freeze the price of houses. I'm going to freeze the price of gas. I'm going to freeze the price of bread. You watch. I'm going to deal with those profiteers. First thing that happens is you put the people that make the stuff out of business because you're too stupid to know exactly what goes into the price of this cup. So if I want to sell the cup for $5 and if I have $3 it costs to make it, $1 for shipping, that gives me a $1 profit. You say, no, not $5, it's going to be $4. Oh, well, now if it costs me $3 to make the cup and $1 for shipping, I've got no profit. Forget that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start making sunglasses instead. I'm not going to be making this. So now what have you done? You created a scarcity of the product, because you just took the incentive away for the person to make it because you didn't understand how they have the price, the cost of making it. Now, with scarcity, you increase demand. But I want to have coffee. Well, it's kind of hard to get a hold of. So what do you just created? A black market. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll get you. You know, the old coffee used to be like $5. You can get it. I can get it. So I'll get it to you for $5. Oh man, I can't even get it anywhere. Get it for $5. You know, $5.50, $6. You know, I'll negotiate. So now it's on the black market. You created a black market. You created scarcity. You created demand. Oh, and what else have you done? The government says I want coffee mugs. All right, okay, boss, coffee mugs coming. So they start making them of inferior ceramic. Now we're going to reduce the quality of it. What only problem is when you put it in the microwave, it breaks. Now when you put it in a washing machine, it crumbles. Why? It's cheap. So what you've done is, this is the story of the Soviet Union. It's the story of Venezuela. It's the story of every country that's attempted price controls. You kill the ability to make it for a profit, you put it out of business. You create scarcity. Scarcity creates demand. Demand creates a black market. The only way the government can fight back is making someone manufacture, or the government manufacturing it. And in order to do it with a price control, it's of cheaper quality, and people don't want it. They go to the black market. 4 inevitabilities of price control that we've learned from history. Kamala Harris doesn't have a clue about any of that. She's never had to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. I know. I don't even know how you can suggest it. And like you said, I mean, instead of a cup, make it food. Make it the price of your Chick-fil-A sandwich. And so now, in order to meet that price, because their costs are going up, right? A grocery store, Chick-fil-A, their costs are going up for what it costs to raise chickens and feed chickens and process the meat and then gas it to the actual restaurant. Guess what? You're going to start getting fillers in your food now. I just saw a whole article the other day that a lot of these major restaurants are now going to start, they've signed a deal with like insects, basically. So insect protein.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are we still going back to the insect filler?
I'm telling you. Or
I
think
swear,
about this.
once I hear there's insects inside of anything,
yeah,
that franchise is over.
Or think about this, lab-grown meat. You know what? Like, that's a whole other industry that's blooming that they're going to try to, that I think they will try to force on us. And so how do you get there? Let's fix the price of meat. You know, the other thing that happened too, Lance, and we got 2 minutes left, but did you see that came out in the news, like 300 million or something crazy, some number of Social Security numbers were hacked and then leaked. Did you see that?
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
Right? That's insane.
I did. So everybody's Social Security number is basically out there now.
Correct. And then, so you know what I'm thinking is on the tail end of that? I'm thinking, oh, here's a convenient problem. Guess what we'll all get? I know the solution, digital IDs. It's not Social Security number. Now everybody needs a digital ID. Like, it's so bizarre. Like, some of these crises that are happening, you think, is this being manufactured? So that they start proposing other solutions.
And this is where the conspiracy mindset comes in, because the conspiracy answers all questions. The problem is, conspiracies can be an oversimplification of something. I was listening to Gad Saad last night talking about how the anti-Semitism is on the rise. He said, and you know, the reason for that is that there's a conspiracy theory that the Jews are behind all the problems.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
In my life, that's true.
Yeah, well, the Jews are, but by the way.
Because Lance is Jewish.
That's
the joke. That's the joke. Let me explain it. The crew's looking at me like, whoa, reel it in.
But now this reparations thing, I'm kind of into that a little bit because the Evangelicals For Harris, they're also into reparations. And I'm 20% Ashkenazi Jew, and I think everybody who is anti-Semitic owes me 20 cents on a dollar. I'm serious. I should be getting 20% reparations for all the agita Jews have had to put up with for all these years by anti-Semites. Anyway, I'm Pentecostal, so it probably cancels out my 20%. But do we have anything? I was going to give you, we don't hardly have any time. You got your outrage of the week. Oh, Planned Parenthood is offering free abortions. Isn't this amazing? How weird has America got? Free abortions at the DNC. And free vasectomies. Now, here's the weird thing. The vasectomies is a good idea. Because you'll have less abortions if you have less women pregnant. So if you're into just the frolicking and rollicking sex industry and you want to just have sex all the time, then get a vasectomy.
Yeah, but it's on a bus, though. It's on a bus. Like a big bus.
Oh, I'm sure. I can just see the advertisement. You know, there it's.
Is it driving while it's happening? That's risky.
Oh, watch the potholes there, Mayor Daley. All right, so listen, we're going to be back again next week. You don't want to miss a moment of this ever prescient analysis of current events on the Lance Wallnau Show. God bless you.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.